So what happens when you combine the world's most powerful AI, ancient prophecies of an age of abundance, and an abandoned blogging platform from 2003?
Well, you get one of the most compelling
Yeah.
and honestly totally unexpected blueprints for the future of human thought that I think we've seen in a really long time.
Right.
Because, that specific, highly unusual combination forces us to confront how completely broken our digital infrastructure actually is right now.
Welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today, for you listening, is to explore a really specific, densely layered blog post. It's dated June 3, 2026.
Yeah, and the title is Why Blogger Needs a Revival: AI, Timelines, and a Modern Blogosphere.
Exactly. And it's written by an incredibly prolific netizen named Paramendra Kumar Bhagatwat. We're going to unpack his argument for why legacy publishing platforms like Blogger absolutely must integrate generative AI and semantic timelines.
Right, if we actually want to save long-form lateral human thinking,
Hmm.
which is a huge stakes game.
It really is, and we're treating this as a true forensic analysis today. We aren't just looking at the text of the argument itself.
No, we are examining the entire ecosystem surrounding it. I mean, we have an archive spanning over 2 decades.
Which is just staggering.
It is. Plus, there's this extensive bibliography of the author's books and a live curated sidebar feeding in tech and blockchain news from that exact day in June 2026.
So it's essentially a complete cross-section of a mind navigating this, exploding technological landscape.
Exactly. It's a snapshot of a very specific moment in time.
So to start, the fundamental problem this author identifies is the asymmetry of the modern web. Specifically, the divergence between real-time networks like X, which, as the source notes, was formerly Twitter, and traditional static platforms like Blogger.
Yeah, the core argument is that X stretched downward, into long-form content, while bloggers completely failed to stretch outward.
Right.
It failed to build any connective social tissue.
But let's really get into the mechanics of that. I mean, why did the old model of the blogosphere actually collapse?
Well, it collapsed because of what we can call the discovery problem. So back in the early web, the blogosphere was this vibrant, decentralized network. You had millions of independent voices.
Sure.
But to connect them, we relied on RSS, really simple syndication.
Oh, man, RSS. I remember that.
Right. And mechanically, RSS was a pull system. You had to physically, manually find a blog you liked, copy the XML feed URL, paste it into a reader.
Like Google Reader or something.
Exactly. And essentially, you had to tell your software, go check this specific server every day to see if there's anything new.
Which, if you think about it, requires an immense amount of deliberate manual labor from the user. You are the one doing the heavy lifting to curate your entire ecosystem.
Precisely. You were the algorithm. And as the volume of information on the internet just scaled exponentially, manual curation became mathematically impossible for the average human brain to manage.
Yeah, there's only so many hours in a day.
Right. So social media platforms solved this by introducing algorithmic timelines. They transitioned us from a manual pull mechanism to a predictive push mechanism.
Okay, so the algorithm maps your behavior and pushes content it calculates you'll engage with.
Exactly. And X embraced this entirely. They built a centralized algorithmic graph, and then they started expanding the limits.
They added long-form articles, right? And threaded notes?
Yeah, and integrated video. So they stretched downward to swallow the actual medium of blogging itself.
While Blogger, which we should mention is owned by Google, did the exact opposite. It just sat
It
there.
remained a complete silo.
Right. I mean, if you want to read a blog on Blogger today, you still have to manually navigate to that specific URL.
Yeah, there is no centralized timeline showing you subject lines or blurbs from across the whole Blogger network. There's no native discovery engine at all.
So if you publish a brilliant essay on an old school blog today, it's basically published into a vacuum.
Totally. You're entirely reliant on sharing links on other platforms to drive traffic back to your silo.
Which is exhausting for writers. They're pouring their souls into these in-depth posts, and readers are just bouncing between scattered bookmarks.
Or they're just abandoning long form entirely because the cognitive friction of finding it is just too high.
Let me put a visual on this for you listening, because it's really a structural failure. Algorithmic discovery on a platform like X is essentially a digital matchmaker.
Right.
It's using like vector embeddings to map the DNA of your interests in high-dimensional space and matching you with content that shares that DNA. But Blogger operates like a massive public library using the Dewey Decimal System.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
But the catch is, no one is allowed to look at the index cards.
Yeah.
The books are all there, sitting on the shelves in the dark, but there's literally no mechanism to locate them.
That is the exact architectural bottleneck. The knowledge exists, but the pathways to retrieve it are completely severed.
But okay, I need to push back on this premise just a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Because as someone who remembers the whole RSS era, wasn't that friction actually a feature, not a bug?
How do you mean?
Well, if there is no algorithmic timeline feeding you what a machine calculates will, trigger your dopamine receptors, doesn't that guarantee a highly intentional reader?
Oh, I see where you're going.
Yeah, like you only read what you deliberately seek out. The author is begging for algorithmic assistance, but isn't algorithmic ease just digital spoon-feeding that ultimately destroys our attention spans?
That is a very valid critique, and it highlights the core tension at the heart of the modern attention economy. Friction absolutely does guarantee intentionality.
Right.
But the author's argument here is that human bandwidth is finite, and the sheer velocity of the modern web has turned that friction from a helpful filter into basically an impenetrable wall.
Okay. So it's just too much friction now.
Exactly. They aren't asking for Blogger to become a mindless doom scroll of endless short-form videos. That's not the goal.
So what they want?
They are asking for a semantic timeline that actually respects the user's intent. If I choose to follow 50 highly technical writers, I need a smart aggregation system to surface their best, most relevant thoughts.
Because you literally do not have the hours in the day to manually check 50 different URLs.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
And without that infrastructure, the casualty is what the author brilliantly terms sustained thought.
Sustained thought. I love that phrase.
Yeah. The intentional reader doesn't become enlightened anymore. They just become exhausted.
So if the lack of semantic mapping is killing sustained thought, we really have to look at the giant in the room here. Google acquired Blogger way back in 2003.
Yep, long time ago.
And Google currently possesses one of the most advanced vector embedding and semantic mapping architectures on the planet. I mean, they have Gemini.
They do.
Why on earth hasn't Google applied the intelligence of Gemini to the structural deficit of Blogger?
That is the central irony of this entire 2026 blog post. Google owns the platform, and Google owns the frontier AI models. Yet since 2003, Blogger has received almost nothing but cosmetic updates.
Like what, CSS tweaks?
Yeah, minor tweaks to CSS templates, maybe some dashboard layout changes, but the underlying topology of the network hasn't evolved at all.
While everyone else moved forward.
Exactly. Meanwhile, platforms like Substack successfully integrated discovery feeds with direct monetization. Medium built partner programs and algorithmic curation.
Ghost developed independent newsletter-first ecosystems.
Right. But Blogger just remains frozen in amber.
So what exactly does the author's mathematical and architectural wish list look like? What features do they actually believe would fix the distribution of long-form thought?
Well, it's a really comprehensive vision for a deeply integrated AI-native publishing stack. First, they want AI-assisted writing and editing built directly into the editor context.
Okay, but we need to be clear about what this means mechanically.
Right.
This isn't just like a chat bot that auto-generates text for you, right?
No, not at all. It's structural scaffolding. Imagine an AI that acts as a real-time semantic editor. It helps you outline complex arguments, pulling in relevant references from your own past writing.
Well, that's smart.
It can generate localized SEO metadata and even create contextually appropriate images as you're drafting.
So it basically becomes a cognitive co-pilot.
Exactly, a cognitive co-pilot. The second pillar of their wish list is the smart timeline and personalized recommendation feed.
How would that work in practice?
It would be a centralized dashboard where you see updates from blogs you actively follow, hybridized with a For You algorithm. But this algorithm uses semantic similarity to suggest long-form posts from creators you've never even heard of.
That solves the discovery problem right there.
Exactly. Third, they envision an AI that can automatically generate short-form companion posts.
Like a summary or a provocative quote.
Right, something that acts as organic marketing material, linking readers directly back to the deeper article. And finally, the seamless integration of analytics.
It's fascinating because none of this requires inventing new technology. Google already has literally all of these components.
Every single one.
They just refuse to connect the APIs to this specific product, which leads to the obvious question, why? Is this simply a failure of organizational structure, like the classic innovator's dilemma where a mega corporation just abandons a product because it doesn't fit its hypergrowth narrative?
It almost certainly comes down to the mechanics of scale and monetization. I mean, think about it. Blogger is entirely free.
True.
It doesn't possess the integrated compounding ad revenue loop of something like YouTube, nor does it fit the enterprise subscription model of Google Workspace.
So it's just kind of an orphaned utility.
Exactly. Within the bureaucracy of a massive tech conglomerate, a legacy utility that doesn't directly drive quarter-over-quarter revenue growth rarely gets the engineering resources required for a total architectural overhaul.
But as the author points out, advantages unused become liabilities.
That's such a great quote.
Blogger has decades of built-in trust. It has an unimaginable amount of historical data. The infrastructure is already paid for.
Yeah.
If they just injected Gemini into that database, they could, practically overnight, create the most intelligent, substantive reading network on the entire internet.
And to truly understand why semantic search and AI curation are so urgently necessary, we have to look at the raw data they are meant to organize.
The actual content.
Right. The source text gives us a direct view into this specific author's own blog archive, and the sheer volume of output is staggering. It perfectly illustrates why the manual web is dead.
This is where the case study gets completely wild. So the sidebar of this blog documents every single post from January 2005 all the way through June 2026.
That's 21 years.
21 years of continuous, unbroken publishing resulting in over 7.5 million page views. Let me read you the trajectory of this output because the numbers just defy logic.
Go for it.
They start in 2005 with 22 posts. By 2009, they are at 406. But then we hit 2011. In the year 2011 alone, this author published 1,278 posts.
Which mathematically breaks down to more than 3 long-form posts every single day, without a single day off for an entire year.
It's unbelievable. 2012 has 773 posts. There's a slight dip in the late 2010s, like 2018 has 20 posts, 2020 has 8. But then the frequency violently accelerates again.
Yeah, the ramp-up is crazy.
2025 hits 1,095 posts, and by mid-2026, when this source was written, they're already at 650.
It's an absolute flood of content.
Now, I have to play the skeptic here for a minute.
Please do.
Are we absolutely sure this represents sustained thought? 3 posts a day for years on end. At a certain point, doesn't this cross the line from deliberate philosophical exploration into mere digital hoarding?
That's a very fair question.
Is this just a solitary voice screaming into the void, logging every random brainwave? And if so, why does Google owe server space, let alone advanced AI curation, to an archive of this nature?
It's a critical question to ask because you're right, volume does not inherently equal value. However, if we look at the function of blogging for hyper-prolific individuals, it's not always about broadcasting to a mass audience.
Okay, what is it about then?
It is about creating an exobrain.
An exobrain.
Yeah, an outboard searchable memory bank of their own evolving logic. For a mind navigating complex, intersecting industries, the act of writing is the process of thinking.
I see. So the writing isn't the product, the writing is the process.
Exactly. But here's the crux of the problem. A sequential archive of 1,178 posts from 2011 is essentially a flat file. It's a locked vault.
Because there is literally no way for a human brain to effectively parse 1,178 disparate posts to find a specific synthesis of ideas. You can't just Control-F your way through a decade of philosophical evolution.
Yeah, exactly. Without an algorithmic architecture to support it, that exobrain does degrade into digital hoarding. It becomes unusable.
Right.
But if you apply a semantic AI model like Gemini to that 21-year ledger, you instantly transform a static archive into a queryable knowledge graph.
You create a private R-edge system, retrieval augmented generation.
Spot on.
Yeah.
A reader could effectively query the blog itself, asking, hey, synthesize the author's evolving stance on artificial intelligence from their earliest posts in 2015 to their crisis points in 2026.
And the AI can actually do that.
Yes. The AI maps those high-dimensional vectors, pulls the insights, and delivers a coherent narrative. The AI curation justifies the volume. It extracts the signal from the noise.
And when we look at what this specific author is actually writing about, the absolute necessity for that semantic mapping becomes undeniable.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the sidebar of this source material doesn't just list blog posts. It contains a massive bibliography of the author's published books. And the sheer breadth of lateral thinking happening here is profound.
We're looking at Dozens of titles that aggressively cross-pollinate highly technical startup mechanics with advanced physics, global economics, and deeply esoteric spiritual philosophy.
Which is wild.
It's the exact type of cross-disciplinary synthesis that current siloed social networks completely fail to accommodate.
Let's analyze the technical side of this bibliography first. We see these highly grounded tactical manuals like Rule of 100 for tech startups and Marketing Escape Velocity, The Path to Unicorn Status, and beyond.
Yeah, those indicate a mind heavily entrenched in the granular mechanics of venture capital, customer acquisition, and scaling Silicon Valley architectures.
Right. But then the scope expands from digital software to physical infrastructure. There is a book titled Physical AWS: How the Logistics Cloud Will Reshape Global Commerce and Ignite the Age of Abundance.
That title alone is a massive conceptual leap.
Let's break down the mechanics of a physical logistics cloud, because AWS Amazon Web Services fundamentally changed the internet by taking physical servers and turning them into abstracted, programmable resources.
Right, you don't have to build a server farm anymore. You just hit an API and compute power spins up instantly.
Exactly. So how does an author apply that concept to global commerce?
By applying the exact same logic of abstraction to physical supply chains. A logistics cloud envisions a world where container ships, automated warehouses, drone delivery networks, and robotic manufacturing facilities are all interconnected via a unified API layer.
So instead of code, it's moving atoms.
Yes. Just as a software developer spins up server capacity dynamically based on user load, a product designer in the future could dynamically spin up physical manufacturing and shipping routes without ever owning a single factory.
Wow, it turns the physical world into programmable infrastructure.
It's the ultimate reduction of friction in the physical world.
But the bibliography pushes even further out on the technological bleeding edge. We see titles diving straight into quantum biology. Listen to this one. Pre-genetics. The technology that lets us watch life think. How photons, cells, and AI may help us cure cancer and rewrite medicine.
Watch life think. That phrasing is incredible. It implies an understanding of biology not just as mechanical chemistry, but as computational logic.
How so?
It suggests using advanced sensors to decode the actual photon emissions of cellular processes, and then using AI pattern recognition to map the decision-making algorithms of a living cell.
It makes me think of the invention of the microscope.
That's a brilliant comparison.
Because, before lenses, we knew disease existed, but we didn't know the mechanisms because the microbial world was just invisible. The author is suggesting that the convergence of quantum photonics and AI is the next microscope.
Exactly. It's going to allow us to literally observe the computational logic of biology in real time.
And this seamlessly connects to their writings on computational intelligence. The author lists books titled The Technologies Behind Agentic AI and Agentic AI, set to explode in 2026.
We really need to define agentic AI mechanically, because it is very different from the AI most people are used to interacting with today.
Yeah, most people interact with LLMs via a single prompt inference. You ask a question, the model predicts the next tokens, gives you an answer, and stops. It has no agency.
Correct. Agentic AI refers to a system architecture where the AI operates within a recursive logic loop.
What does that mean in practice?
It means it is given a high-level goal, and it autonomously breaks that goal down into discrete tasks. It uses tools like browsing the web, running code, or accessing APIs.
Okay.
Then it evaluates its own results, stores the outcome in memory, and then iterates until the primary goal is completely achieved. It doesn't wait for the next human prompt. It acts dynamically.
Which fundamentally changes the economic scale of technology entirely. And the author captures the scale in titles like Lumina AI, The Trillion-Dollar Sun, and Unicorn to Solara, A Journey of Imagination, from billion-dollar startups to trillion-dollar suns.
We are moving way past the concept of a unicorn.
Right.
A startup valued at a mere $1 billion.
Right.
We're moving into entities valued in the trillions, functioning as economic suns that exert massive gravitational pull over entire global markets.
And this is really where the lateral thinking reaches its absolute peak, because you cannot discuss trillion-dollar autonomous economic entities without discussing the restructuring of global power.
No, they go hand in hand.
The author explicitly links these technological leaps to profound shifts in geopolitics and human spirituality.
Now, before we explore the political and spiritual frameworks mapped out in this bibliography, we need to be very clear about something.
Yes, I need to state this very explicitly for you, the listener. The sources we are analyzing reference highly polarized real-world political figures and ideologies.
Yeah.
We are going to analyze these titles to understand the macro architecture of the author's worldview. But we are absolutely not taking any political sides.
None whatsoever.
We are remaining completely impartial regarding American progressivism, conservative populism, or global trade policies. Our role is solely to examine how this author is synthesizing these opposing forces into a comprehensive model of the future.
Understood. And the author's attempt to map every possible vector of the future is incredibly evident. I mean, they have written AOC 2028, The Future of American Progressivism, analyzing the leftward trajectory of American politics.
Right.
Concurrently, they explore the opposing forces in Trump's default, the mist of empire, and Trump's trade war, dissecting populist economics.
They also zoom out to global structural reform with a reorganized UN built from ground up and the $500 billion pivot, how the India-U.S. alliance can reshape global trade.
They are literally mapping the tectonic plates of global authority.
But where this bibliography achieves true synthesis and where it violently breaks the conventions of modern segmented internet publishing is the integration of these hard economic and political realities with religious prophecy.
This is the author's framework of Kelkism. We see a foundational text titled Kelkism, the economic and spiritual blueprint for an age of abundance.
Supported by titles like Velocity Money, Crypto, Karma, and the End of Traditional Economics, and The Last Age of War, The First Age of Peace, Lord Kalki, Prophecies, and the Path to Global Redemption.
To contextualize this mechanically, we really have to look at Hindu eschatology.
Okay, let's break that down.
Lord Kalki is prophesied as the 10th and final avatar of the deity Vishnu. Kalki is destined to appear at the end of the Kali Yuga, which is the current age of darkness and moral decline.
Right.
And he appears to destroy corruption and inaugurate the Satyuga, an age of truth, purity, and profound abundance. What this author is doing is highly unorthodox.
How so?
They are extracting this ancient spiritual prophecy and fusing it directly onto modern cryptographic economics.
Crypto, Karma, and the End of Traditional Economics. Let's just pause for a second and think about the cognitive elasticity required to hold these concepts simultaneously.
It's immense.
The human mind is lateral. We do not naturally think in silos. It is entirely possible for a human being to spend their morning obsessing over the granular metrics of digital sales funnels and 30 ways to close sales, which, again, are actual books on this list, and then spend their evening contemplating the ontological implications of autonomous AI and the prophetic return of a deity.
But the architecture of the modern web actively punishes that kind of lateral thinking.
Yes, exactly.
If you post about B2B sales funnels on LinkedIn, the algorithm rewards you. If you post about Kalkiism and the spiritual ramifications of quantum biology on that exact same profile, the algorithm doesn't know how to categorize the vector embedding.
So it just buries the post.
Completely. The platforms force us to segment our identities into narrow, easily monetizable niches.
And that is the core aha moment of this entire deep dive. The current web forces the segmentation of the human brain. This is exactly why the author is arguing for a semantic AI timeline built on long-form platforms like Blogger. An advanced AI doesn't need you to stay in a neat little niche.
No, it doesn't.
A semantic engine can actually understand the complex, high-dimensional relationship between a physical logistics cloud, an agentic AI loop, and the economic concept of karma.
It can curate and deliver that synthesis without breaking the structural integrity of the thought.
It's the only way to reunite lateral human thinking at scale. And when we look at the specific reality this author is living in on June 3, 2026, the need for that synthesized understanding transitions from a philosophical luxury to an absolute existential necessity.
Because the world they are documenting in their live feed is moving at a terrifying velocity.
Let's look at that. The sidebar of this blog captures a real-time snapshot of tech and blockchain news from that exact day. It is an environment of total cognitive whiplash.
Whiplash is the perfect word for it.
Let's examine the AI headlines first. The lead story from VentureBeat reads, Minimax M3 debuts, eclipsing GPT 5.5 and Gemini 3.1 Pro on key benchmark performance for just 5–10% of the cost.
The implications of that single headline are just staggering. First, it confirms that by mid-2026, the baseline capabilities of models like GPT 5.5 and Gemini 3.1 Pro are likely incredibly vast.
Right.
But the disruptive event isn't happening within the established American tech oligopoly. Minimax M3 represents an independent or foreign entity achieving frontier-level intelligence while simultaneously collapsing the cost of compute by up to 95%.
Which is insane, because when the cost of frontier intelligence drops to pennies on the dollar, intelligence ceases to be a specialized tool and becomes a ubiquitous commodity.
Exactly.
It fundamentally alters the economic value of human cognitive labor. It is the raw mathematical realization of the age of abundance the author keeps referencing.
But abundance without control is highly volatile. Right below that, an Engadget headline reads, "Researchers show how AI-powered worms could wreak havoc on the internet."
This is the dark manifestation of the agentic AI we defined earlier.
It really is.
If an AI can operate in a recursive logic loop to solve a supply chain problem, it can use that exact same architecture to autonomously hunt for zero-day vulnerabilities in a server farm, rewrite its own code to avoid detection, and propagate without any human intervention.
And this autonomous capability is converging with leaps in underlying hardware. A Slashdot headline notes, Microsoft claims new quantum chip 1,000 times better than before.
1,000 times.
Right. Quantum computing doesn't just speed up traditional binary processing. It operates on entirely different principles of probability.
Allowing it to solve complex cryptographic and logistical problems essentially instantaneously.
Yes. So on one side of the screen, you are reading about an explosive exponential leap in autonomous intelligence and quantum capability.
But then you scroll down to the blockchain blogs feed, and the financial reality of this new world is just bleeding out on the floor.
The contrast is violent. A headline from the Merkle News reads, Bitcoin crashes below $67,000 as $700 million wiped from crypto market in hours. Wow. Another blames an ETF exodus for the drop.
And the regulatory battles are equally intense. Blockchain Association tells Senate to reject retail CBDC over privacy and innovation risks. Let's explain the mechanics of this, because a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, is fundamentally different from decentralized crypto like Bitcoin.
No, absolutely. A retail CBDC is a digital currency issued directly to the public by a central bank. Mechanically, it removes the commercial banking layer entirely.
So instead of holding your money in Chase or Bank of America, your digital wallet sits directly on the central bank's ledger.
Exactly. And the privacy risk arises because the central authority now possesses real-time, absolute visibility into every single transaction made by every single citizen.
It's the ultimate centralization of financial data.
Which is completely antithetical to the decentralized ethos of the early web and the original promise of cryptocurrency.
So the author is sitting there in 2026, watching independent AI models collapse the cost of intelligence, autonomous worms threaten the infrastructure, quantum chips break the boundaries of physics, and governments attempt to seize absolute control of the financial ledger.
All while legacy crypto markets hemorrhage hundreds of millions of dollars in hours.
It is the definition of historical whiplash. In an environment moving with this much volatility, where intelligence is infinite and information is exploding, how is a human being supposed to process reality?
Which brings us directly to the author's concluding argument, the thesis that really ties this entire deep dive together. The post concludes, in an age of AI abundance, giving creators better tools and readers better ways to find quality writing isn't just good business, it's a chance to restore depth to online discourse.
The author connects the spiritual to the technological perfectly in their opening line. The impending age of abundance was prophesied in the scriptures thousands of years ago. The abundance of compute, that 95% cost collapse of AI models, is the literal mechanism delivering that prophecy.
But the critical insight here is that abundance, without an architectural structure to contain it, is just noise. It's a hurricane of data.
Right. Having access to infinite AI-generated text, infinite short-form videos, and infinite cheap compute doesn't make us wiser if we cannot organize it laterally.
Exactly. An AI-revived blogging platform, a semantic timeline that respects intent, summarizes complex lateral thoughts, and bridges disparate fields of knowledge is the necessary infrastructure.
It's the structure required to distill the hurricane of information abundance into actual, usable wisdom.
The author is arguing that generative AI's highest purpose is not to generate endless new content to drown us in, but to curate, synthesize, and elevate the sustained thought that humans are already producing.
This has been an incredibly dense journey today. We started by diagnosing the architectural failures of the legacy web, the siloing of knowledge, and the collapse of manual discovery. We unpacked the massive 21-year exo-brain of a single netizen who synthesizes everything from programmable logistics clouds to the spiritual prophecies of Kalkiism, and we mapped exactly why that kind of lateral human thinking is desperately needed in the volatile, quantum-accelerated reality of 2026.
It is a profound call to action for the entities that control our digital architecture. But I want to leave you with a structural question to consider as we close.
Let's hear it.
If this author's vision is fully realized, if we successfully deploy advanced semantic AI to perfectly curate, summarize, and even assist in drafting our most profound long-form thoughts, what happens to the actual mechanics of human cognition?
That's heavy.
Do we create a transcendent digital ecosystem of shared wisdom? Or do we risk building a closed loop where AI models are drafting brilliant lateral essays specifically optimized for other AI models to ingest and summarize, while the human beings at the center merely skim the bullet points? In an era where intelligence is a free commodity, what is the value of the struggle to think?
That is the ultimate question to carry with you as you navigate your own fragmented timelines and segmented algorithms today. Are we the architects of the synthesis, or just passive consumers of the machine's summary? Keep demanding the underlying mechanisms, keep pushing for the lateral connections, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.